Good morning. So, oh, my remote is dead. That's okay. That's me. I am RJBS, Ricardo. Everyone calls me Rick, is fine. And my job for Perl is to be the pump king. The pump king's job is to watch over Perl and make sure that it keeps moving and moving in the right direction and that it's always getting better. So today I'm going to talk about what I've been doing and what's been happening with Perl. In the past of Perl, Perl has sort of been a big, ugly mess. But now when we look at Perl today, what we find out is it's a big, ugly mess. But that's okay because we all love Perl. It's a mess, but it's our mess. No one is going to change the kind of mess that Perl is because it's what we like. So no one should be worrying that we're going to turn Perl into anything else anytime in the future. Today I want to talk about what's new with Perl, why it's new, why we're changing things, what's going to be new next, and what we won't be doing, and why. All of those things, why. In the past, I would give a talk, and I gave a talk here in 2011 about what is new. But not just what is new in Perl, what is new that you will really use. Because we think about what's new in Perl 5.8, and who cares? Perl 5.8 came out, what am I going to use? To find the answer, you go and you read Perl Delta. Perl Delta tells you everything that is new, and it starts telling you really useful things like this. If you rename packages through glob assignment in combination with the M question mark non-interpolative pattern matching operator, you would have crashed threaded Perl, but not anymore. This does not affect any human being. Or if you tie %h, the hints hash, any entry that begins like this, no one cares. What do you care about? What is good and new in Perl? Regular expression character sets are new in 5.18. Really interesting stuff. In regular expressions already, we have character sets. For example here, we want to match a set of characters from A through Z. Even though it's a set, you can't do set operations, except for addition. So if we had a set, and we want to add not just ASCII letters, but ASCII numbers, we can add the set. There we go. If we want to remove from the set, or do an intersection, or a difference, we end up already getting into things that are kind of awful, like this. I want A through Z, or 0 through 9, but no 3s. 3s are right out. In 5.18, we can start to do this with real sets. I want a set that includes any letter and any number, but take away any number with a numeric value 3. And by the way, you see here, this is we can use full properties for this. And by the way, not only must those things be true, but I want the intersection of that set with anything but Cyrillic. So this begins to make pattern matching much easier when you're trying to construct large sets of characters based on smaller sets. When you use this, you have to say you don't want experimental warnings, because this is an experimental feature, and I'll come back to what that means. The big new phrase for Perl is experimental feature. We also have lexical subroutines. Since 1994, the Perl documentation talks about lexical subroutines. Now we have them. So imagine this program. I have a subroutine called sum, takes a number from the stack, and then it makes a new named lexical subroutine, which takes an argument and returns the sum, and then I call it. Obviously, this is a silly example. This is not real code, but it makes the point. And I can call it over and over. What are the answers? What do I get for this first one? Sean? 3. And the next one? 5, 7. We're just making a basic adder. But what we did is we've made a subroutine with a name that acts like a named subroutine anywhere. This is us catching up with this part of Python. We can have subroutines inside that work like subroutines anywhere else without making references and using too many arrows. And if you think that was nice, hopefully everyone here is using Perl 5.10 and knows about state. Because you can do this and make it a state subroutine. Now, in this example, a state subroutine might not be the best idea. We still get 3, which is good. But that state subroutine was only constructed the first time, and then we keep it around. So the next time we ask for 2 plus 3, we're going to get... But this is not a good example. But imagine you need to build a complex closure. You don't know whether your program needs it, but if it does, you only want to build it once. In Moose, we would have a lazy attribute. Well, here, we're getting lazy closure construction. Very powerful when you need it. Now, I don't think that I'm going to use lexical subroutines, but if I did, this is where I would use them. I'm going to write some program with a lot of packages. I do this in my tests. My tests very often have many packages in them. And I start with a subroutine. And then I use the subroutine in all of these packages. It's very useful to do this. I'm building a piece of code that's like a shared library. But there's no library, and there's no reason to import. The problem is, this program will not run. Because the diag subroutine exists only in the main package, not anywhere else. It's a package variable. Subroutines are packaged variables. But I could say this. Yes, it's fantastic. A my subroutine is visible across the whole lexical scope. There are problems. For example, if we get an error in here, we get a stack trace like this. And you see the second line. Where was this called? Oh, I don't know. It was called somewhere. We don't know its name. Because it's a lexical subroutine, we can't look up the name of the subroutine because it's actually sort of anonymous. It doesn't have a package name. But the interesting thing was not that the subroutine's duration was lexical. We don't care that the garbage collector will throw it away. We care that the duration of the name is lexical. It crosses these scopes. And if you want a global value with a lexical name, we have a word for that in Perl. The word is our. So we can make our subroutine. And now that subroutine is visible everywhere in the lexical scope, but otherwise is just a package subroutine. I'm going to use this every day, maybe every week. I'm going to use it a lot. And this code, by the way, is another place you actually need to say use feature. And not only must you say use feature, you have to turn off those warnings. It's an experimental feature. So what's up with experimental features? I keep pointing out this is an experimental feature. In the past, we would add features to Perl, and then we would say in a release note at the bottom, indented in faint print, crossed out, this feature is experimental. Maybe you shouldn't use it. Everyone would use it. And then we would find out it wasn't a very good idea. And we'd want to fix it, but everyone is using it. And people would say, I didn't know. I didn't know it was experimental. Now you must say, I'm going to use an experimental feature. And this allows us to decide whether a feature is good and we will keep it. We've applied this to some features that already existed to get them into the protocol of experimental features that then become real features. For example, the lexical topic, my $_. In this subroutine, we can look at this and wonder, how many of these things can see and affect and change the thing in the topic? And the answer is all of them. Chomp is a built-in, it will touch the topic. The substitution will touch the topic. Print is a built-in. What about reset stood out? You've never seen that because it's a subroutine I've written somewhere. But the topic is a global variable. You can always touch a global variable, so it can do that. But if someone does this, can your program still affect the topic everywhere? And the answer is not no. The answer is maybe. If reset stood out looks like this, it won't see the lexical topic. If it looks like this, it will see the lexical topic. Second one says, give me whatever topic was in place at the thing that called me, which becomes a big problem. Because if someone writes this, I hope everyone here uses try-tiny. It's great, nice, very small module that makes exceptions a little easier. Our second block is going to rethrow an exception unless the exception looks like it's saying to ignore it. What we don't know is that somewhere much higher in the program, someone has done this. And now, the catch block is a closure over the lexical topic. When it gets called, it doesn't see the exception, it sees ho, ho, ho. So we've just broken our program, and no one will ever tell why. It's very difficult to find the actual problem. So you end up writing this, which is awful. We're losing the nice block passing syntax and have to use a prototype. And anytime you're using a prototype, something has gone wrong. So we can avoid that by saying $::_, which is better for much worse versions of better. It's terrible. So that lexical topic has now been marked experimental. We're going to fix it, which might mean taking it out back and shooting it dead. Similarly, smart match. I don't want to talk about smart match. I've talked about smart match before, and I would talk for 30 more minutes and get red in the face and shake my fist. All I will say is, if you read the documentation for smart match, it's 40 lines of dispatch table, and we'd like to fix it to this, which you can remember and you can use, and fix given to look like this. These slides are online, and I can give a link to anyone so you can see this table again. We want to fix smart match, and that is why, if you have upgraded, you're seeing all these warnings saying, be careful about smart match. Another big change in 5.18 is hash randomization. Many people think they know that if you have two hashes that have the same content, they will always spit out their contents in the same order. In fact, in older Perls, this is true 99% of the time, but not always. If we took this program and we replaced the keys with something similar that happens to be a hash collision, they'll stringify differently. So many programs have a bug. They rely on hash ordering, even though hash ordering is not really reliable. So what we did in 5.18 is we made it very unreliable. Instead of 99% of the time, the same answer, it's more like 0% of the time. It's very, very unreliable. This made a lot of libraries break, but those libraries were already broken. They were just waiting for the wrong input. Big fix. For the most part, it behaves the way we've always said. If you call keys and values, they give you the same order. Once you change it, you get new orders. These guys, I would love if you could show me, hands, who has used these features? Yeah, these features allow you to put code, Perl code, into your regular expressions. And they're very powerful. But until May of this year, they would crash Perl. They would do crazy, crazy things. And the Perl Foundation paid for hundreds of hours of bug fixing time to make these features work and be reliable. So if you like writing complex regular expressions, it's the time to review these. I won't discuss them because I could spend an hour talking just about these. Very powerful. And finally, I think, split. Some people may not know, if you pass a single string to split, it will behave like awk. It will split on runs of string. But that's only if the first argument is a single space character in quotes. If you put that into a variable and split on that, it acted like a regular expression of one string. And it would also happen if you had the first form, but inside the quotes was, say, \x20. So it's very, very peculiar, and this has been fixed. Okay. Some things that have left 5.18, And I think many of us are glad they have, or are leaving in 5.20. File check tree, a module that no one remembers why it was with Perl. Text soundex, a module that is only useful if you speak English and are from Eastern America. Pod LaTeX, which is a fine module, but we don't need in the core. And CPAN Plus. CPAN Plus was a great idea that didn't really win, so it is leaving the core, along with a ton of things. So that's what's new in Perl and what we've done with 5.18. I was very excited for 5.18, but I'm more excited for the future. And a lot of people have had questions and ideas about the future of Perl. Some people think Perl has an image problem, and that people think that Perl is falling off, that Perl is not being written in, and that we should change the way people think about Perl, and that we should give it a new name or a new logo. So I took the liberty of designing a new logo. Now, I think maybe this is too radical. We don't really want to change Perl in the ways that people talk about. But what do we want to do with the future of Perl? How should it look? How should we think about Perl? Maybe what we want is a subtle adjustment, a little change. You know, it's not the next version of Perl, it's just a slightly newer version of Perl. But of course, today being what it is, we're really talking about this. And I like this, because what this says is we have more than one Perl 5. Right now, everyone runs one Perl 5. Mine, the pumpkins Perl. But in the future, we could have more than one, named after other squash. Sure, we'll have pumpkin Perl, but we can have Hubbard Perl, and acorn Perl, and turban Perl. And I really like this idea, and the reason I like it is it's like having an experimental feature. You start with Perl, the Perl we all know, and then you break it. You do something that you can't do to Perl because too many people rely on Perl working the way it does. And then you see how much did you break? How badly did you break Perl? And how much was it worth? And after you figured this out and found the features that get you the most value, I can steal them back and put them in the Perl that we all use. So this is a very good idea for me, and it's a very good idea for everyone who uses Perl, who wants to change Perl in ways that are too experimental. So really, the future of Perl 5 is nothing more than Perl 5. Perl 5 will continue to be Perl 5 forever, as far as I'm concerned. We don't need to change anything except for little improvements. Perl should be getting more Perlish, whatever that means. What is Perl? Perl is a bunch of little systems, little parts that come together into a beautiful whole that works in ways that everyone can understand. Well, what Perl really needs to be is Perl needs to be teachable to new programmers. New programmers need to be able to just understand it. People who already write Perl need to be able to guess how it works. People who don't like the way it works should be able to extend it and give it new behaviors, where we've been very successful with Perl. And it needs to be compatible, so you can upgrade your old Perl to a new Perl and have your code still work. This is where some people go nuts. They say, we should be breaking all the old horrible code to allow evolution. Or they say, we shouldn't change anything because we need backwards compatibility. And there's an idea that Perl is stuck. And Perl's not going to change because we dare not break old code, and that we're too afraid, that Perl is a language for cowards. I think this is silly. The real truth is that success hates agility. Right? When you have a language that becomes very successful, you can't just change it all the time because too many people rely on it. There's a very famous story. Early on, someone said about makefiles, boy, this idea that you need to use a tab instead of spaces is ridiculous. We should fix it so you can use spaces. And the author said, you're right, but we already have 6 users. I don't think I can fix this. We know that we want to change things, and everyone agrees we need to change parts of Perl to make it better over and over. Larry said that we all agree that we need to compromise, but we just can't agree when to compromise. The parallel here is we all agree we need to remove stuff, but we just don't all agree on what stuff to remove. But in reality, concerns about backward compatibility have prevented very few changes. People think that it stops us, but it doesn't. Very rarely do we have a patch that we say, no, it would break old Perl. It doesn't happen. So you could ask, how many patches did people not write because they thought it wouldn't be applied? Well, this is not a very good question. We can't know. Who knows? The other thing people think is, people come forward and they say, I have an idea of how to make Perl better. And then the Perl 5 Porters mailing list, where we make Perl, talks and talks and talks and won't shut up until the idea is dead. How often does this happen? How often do we talk an idea to death? Well, it happens sometimes. Maybe we find out, though, that it was a bad idea. We talk and talk and talk, and what seemed like a great idea at first turns out to be a terrible idea. Well, in that case, being talked to death is a really good thing. Other times, though, there really is a problem, that we want to make something perfect. You know, you've had a very good idea, but I think the idea could be better, and we talk about making it better until it's so big, no one will do the work. And no one is going to come in and say, stop, this is as much as we need. This is the feature we need, this can wait. Well, you know, we can all agree we need to compromise and not when. The way I think about this is we all agree that we need to compromise, and I'll tell you when. That is my job, and that's what I'm there to do, to keep us from talking too much. Sometimes I'll say, shut up and write some code. And when that happens, we see really, really nice things happen. Who writes the code? When I say shut up and write the code, who really does it? Well, that's a good question. Perl needs people who will write this code. I have a daughter. She is 6 years old. And soon, she is going to ask me a very uncomfortable question. Where do we get this code from? It turns out, most of the patches in Perl, more than half, come from 4 people. Perl isn't dead. It's ridiculous when people say Perl is dead. The amount of code being written in Perl, on the CPAN, in companies, on GitHub, it's huge. It's an amazing amount of impressive code. Perl is a vibrant language. But Perl, the interpreter, it's not necessarily thriving in the same way as Perl, the language. It only changes when there are hackers writing code to make it better and better. The good news is just about everyone in this room is a programmer, and you can all help. Everyone can come and help make Perl not just the language and the community and the CPAN better, but Perl.c. Everyone here can learn to make it better, and I hope you all consider it and do it. If you want a new feature in Perl, you want something to be changed, to be better, write it. And if you don't know how, ask for help. The people on Perl 5 Porters usually will try to help you. If you tell them you have a good idea and that you started and you don't know where to go next, they will tell you, they will give you ideas and help you. They're actually very friendly. Stories say they're not, but for the most part, Perl 5 Porters want to help each other. And if you don't want to write the idea, or you don't think you can learn C, or you just hate C, write down the idea and send it in. There have been a number of features that have gone into Perl that were not written by the people who had the idea. In fact, it's my little secret that I do not write C. I wrote C when I was 12 years old, and that was enough. And now I don't write it anymore. I'm not the person writing any of the new things I tell you about. I just write down the ideas, and sometimes my ideas are good, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're good enough that someone else will say, That is a good idea. I will build it. And you might have these ideas too. So come and talk to us about the ideas that you want to see in Perl. 5 minutes. Now I begin to speak quickly. But that's good because I'm going to talk about things that make me happy. I'm going to talk about the things that I like about the future of Perl. Specifically, things I think we will see in Perl 5.20. By the way, I think Perl 5.20 will be my new favorite Perl. Fatal implicit close. When you write this code, it's great. You make a file handle with my. You think it's great because when the block is over, it closes it for you. But what it doesn't do is throw an exception if it failed. You think that you just wrote something to that file? No, you didn't. There was no space in the device. But there's nothing to tell you. Well, with Perl 5.20, we hope it will give you a warning. And if you want, you can make that warning fatal. Fantastic. This guy, postfix dereferencing. This is my favorite. Everyone hates writing this. Long string of arrows, and then wrap it all with braces. In Perl 5.14, you could leave off the braces sometimes. In push, you could leave them off on the left. But on the right-hand side, you can't. Well, in Perl 5.20, you can say this. It's exactly the same. Dereference with something at the end instead of all the way around. And you can do it anywhere. You can, instead of on the right-hand side, having to write this circumfix dereference, stick it on the end. Anywhere, including inside of double quotes. Anywhere you could write at braces, you can use this. And it's not just at. You can say, I want the scalar dereference. How far will this go? I'm not sure. Maybe this far. We'll see. In Perl 5.20, in the release coming out today, just like you could get the values from a slice of an array, you can get the key value pairs from a slice of a hash or an array. Get out the indexes and values, or get out the keys and values. Extremely powerful. This, real exceptions in Perl, ask me again next year. I would love it. Not 5.20. Types. This is another dream of mine. I proposed this maybe 2 years ago, and Yagao-san proposed it this year, which tells me my idea maybe was okay, to let you tell whether you have gotten a string or bytes by looking at a scalar. The number of bugs this would solve is enormous. I am very excited for this. Autoboxing, again, ask me next year. Magic MRO. Finally, Magic MRO, so we can overload the arrow operator. I'm being told the music is playing and I should stop. This will be phenomenal and will let us do things like implement prototype-based OO and real class instance distinction OO. Amazing. And finally, everybody gets real random numbers. On Windows, if you write Perl on Windows, real random. Okay. Oh, and this guy. I should just stop with this. I think we will see this in the next 2 years, which will be wonderful. I would ask for questions. I'm not sure we have time. But if you have any questions about anything I've said, find me in the hall and talk to me. I'm here to talk to everyone. And thank you very much.
もし質問とかあれば、ゲストのさん。暗いのでもし質問があれば、頑張って手を振る。上の方を大丈夫ですか？いいんですか？はい。ちょっとそこに持っていけないです。すみません。When do you think mock Redux would be in core, or would it?
The Perl 5 mop, the meta object protocol for Perl 5 is very exciting. And I talk with Stephen Little every few weeks about it. Before we see it in the Perl core, I think we need to see it on CPAN. So far, it's all written so it could be on CPAN. We can look at it, play with it, see how good it is. I don't think even Steven would want it in Perl 520. I hope that in Perl 522, in 2015, we could have it in. But it's very difficult to say until it's done, or more done. But I can say that I'm very excited for it, and I like it, and I do want to see it in Perl.
コラムの中に入れたいし、とてもエキサイティングなフィーチャーだと思いますが、とりあえずまず審判に上げてどういうふうに動くかというところを提出していかないと難しいでしょうと。で、作者であるスティーバン・ミットルさんとも毎週に話してるんですけど、今の段階ではまだちょっとそこのところまで来ていないという感じで、5.20 に入らないでしょうし、5.20 にはひょっとしたらあるかもしれないかなというぐらいの感触です。という感じです。他にいらっしゃいますか？大丈夫ですか？皆さん、はい、どうぞ。CGIPM は消えるんですか？
Yes, I will say CGIPM will go. I think that many people who say it was bad are wrong. It was very good when it was new. Now, it's gone.
新しかった時が良かったですけど、もう、そのうち、コアから CGIPM は消えます。はい、大丈夫ですか？皆さん 5.20 に上げても大丈夫ですか？もうまだ大丈夫。もうちょっといけるよ。大丈夫。じゃあ皆さん明日 5.18 に入れて自分のプログラムを動かせません。はい、じゃあありがとうございました。